You've probably seen social media posts lately claiming thousands of homes are flooding the market overnight.
This is wild. The real estate market in Washington, D.C. and neighboring areas is exploding with new listings, meaning everybody is putting their house up for sale.
There have been 4,271 houses up for sale in just the last 14 days.
Some say North Virginia real estate is on the brink of collapse. It's pretty easy to get caught up in the hype. I mean, after all, anyone could just pick up their phone and say whatever they want online. And we've seen a lot of that lately. Now, if you believe everything you see online, you will believe that the DC metro area real estate market is about to crash. Some social media posts talk about a mass exodus and plummeting sales prices. But that's not what the data is showing. So let's dig into the numbers. Northern Virginia home prices have stayed surprisingly strong, even with federal layoffs by the new Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Month over month, we've seen modest price growth since DOGE was created. In February 2025, the median sold price hit nearly $733,000, which is up 6.6% year over year. I'm Crystal Walker with Ask A Walker, and usually I talk about where to live in Northern Virginia, but today I want to tackle some of these rumors about our local housing market. So here's the big question. Is DOGE actually causing a housing crash? Let's take a look at this graphic here. It shows new listings by counties for February 2024 versus February 2025. Well, overall in February 2025, prices were still high compared to last year, even though sales slowed down a bit. The number of closed transactions was down about 8.1% in Northern Virginia. We saw 3.8% fewer new listings year over year, only 1,207 new listings, while total inventory actually climbed by 31.8%. A lot of people think there's suddenly a flood of homes on the market in Northern Virginia. But is that really true? So here's what's really happening. In January, we had 1,261 active listings. That's up 28.5% from the previous year. Now, that's an early sign that more homeowners wanted to sell. And by February, active listings rose to 1,520, up 31.8%. Even though 995 new listings came on the market in January, which is below historic averages, the number did not bump by late February, especially in the outer suburbs. In fact, Bright MLS reports a 20% jump in new listings in just 1 week, and that was the week ending February 22nd. Now, outer suburbs like Manassas Park and Fairfax City led that rise, though they started from some relatively small numbers. Meanwhile, closer in areas like Arlington and Alexandria stayed fairly stable. So maybe outer suburb sellers are feeling the need to list, possibly because remote workers now have to report to the office. It's too soon to say how much of this we can tie to DOGE's cuts. But one thing is clear. Inventory is up from rock bottom levels, yet it is still far from high. So why is inventory rising? Well, part of the increase in inventory is tied to fewer pending sales. Let's break it down. We have more homes staying on the market. Pending sales fell 8.3%, so we have fewer homes under contract. That leaves more listings active, which bumps the inventory up by 31.8%. New listings actually dipped 3.8%, so we're not seeing a wave of new properties. Instead, existing listings linger because demand has softened slightly. The average days on market stayed at 22 days, which is the exact same as this time last year. Now, if demand were super high, we would expect to see fewer days on market. The fact that it stayed flat suggests that buyers are pausing or maybe worried about high prices or interest rates. So while we have more inventory, it's not a new listing tsunami. It's really that homes are sticking around a little bit longer. So does this mean we can expect a fire sale or drastic price reductions? Absolutely not. Because even though pending sales went down, we don't even have a 1-month supply of homes in many parts of Northern Virginia. A balanced market usually means 4 to 6 months of inventory. And here's where we stand. In Fairfax County, there's 0.15 months of inventory. In Arlington, 0.43 months. Alexandria, 0.49 months. And in Loudoun County, get ready for this, 0.05 months of inventory. Those numbers mean that sellers are still in an incredibly strong position, even with more listings and some slowing in demand. Now, there's a lot of talk about federal job cuts causing a mass exodus from the D.C. area. But consider this, the DMV region has about 20% of the country's 2.4 million civilian federal employees. That means that 80% of the layoffs are happening outside of our area. Now, Northern Virginia communities closer to D.C. like Arlington and Alexandria do have a higher share of federal employees, while the rest of the region has about 14% on average. Now, early on, and I really am talking like the first 1 or 2 weeks in February, Arlington and Alexandria saw a small jump in listings when layoffs first began. But by the end of the month, new listings in both places had actually dropped compared to last year. Arlington was down 2.5% and Alexandria was down 12.6%. So as of now, there is no large-scale exit or fire sale happening. Now, if downsizing picks up in areas like Alexandria, Arlington, or Fairfax County, we might see some extra listings. On the other hand, if more folks return to the office, those same closer-in markets might see an increase in demand. We're already starting to see this with buyers wanting a shorter commute. A new client actually reached out to us a few weeks ago because they had been teleworking for a while and only had to report into the office twice a month. They now have to be there daily. So they're looking into purchasing a home much closer in to shorten their commute. And I think that might happen more often than you think. Now, here's what we're seeing on the ground. Buyers who are qualified and ready are still facing bidding wars. Homes that are market ready and move-in ready are still going under contract within days, sometimes within 1 to 2 days of hitting the market. Offers with escalation clauses and waived contingencies are still fairly common. Now, we primarily cover Loudoun, Prince William, Fairfax, and Arlington, but we're seeing this in each of those counties. Some buyers may have decided to put their plans on hold if they're worried about layoffs, and at the same time, some sellers might list if they lose their job or feel uneasy about the future. But remember, you don't lose your job on Wednesday and list your house for sale on Friday. Most people take their time. They're going to look for another job. If they have kids, that's a whole nother thing to consider. Do you wait until the school year ends to avoid uprooting them in the middle of the school year? Most homes are also not market ready, so sellers need to handle repairs, decluttering before they can put their home on the market. This means we're unlikely to see a flood of properties all at once. Also, many workers are still going to stay put in the area. Unlike the scenario some fear, laid-off federal employees aren't just going to leave en masse. When government-related jobs are lost in our region, many of those employees stay here and find other work. They have families, spouses with jobs, or they may simply prefer the area. Now, most experts predict a cooling rather than a crash in the DC metro area. And here's why. Terry Glower, he's with George Mason University's Research Analysis Center. He says that federal layoffs alone just aren't enough to cause a major collapse. Our local economy is much more diverse than it used to be. We have a lot of pent-up demand. Even a 20% jump in inventory would likely be absorbed quickly since we have been undersupplied for years. Remember, we have less than a 1-month supply in many areas. Now, Lawrence Yoon, who's the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors, doesn't see the Beltway bubble popping anytime soon because federal employers are a small percentage of our total workforce. Plus, many who do leave might rent their homes instead of selling if they plan to come back. Now, we'll definitely want to keep our eye out on the spring and summer markets. If thousands more federal workers get laid off, and if we start seeing more listings pile up without buyer interest, we might see a shift in a month's supply or a dip in the median sales price. But as of now, prices are still up 6.6% year over year in Northern Virginia, and local rents are even starting to tick up again. As long as mortgage rates stay reasonable and the broader economy avoids a recession, we'll probably see only a mild bump rather than a crash. Now, of course, there are wild cards. If budget cuts drag on or if government contracts freeze, we could see slower job growth and less housing demand. On the other hand, if Congress steps in or if interest rates drop, it might bring on more buyers. The DC housing market is in a tough spot. Federal job cuts are shaking up an otherwise strong real estate market. Right now, we're seeing a small dip in new listings and some buyer caution, but we haven't seen any drastic price drops. Historically, this region adapts rather than collapse when federal jobs are cut. Unless we see an unexpected wave of people leaving, it's more likely that the market will stabilize rather than crash. For many buyers, having a few more listings to choose from may actually be a relief. So here's what you need to know. Inventory is up, but we are still in a seller's market. Prices have remained steady, and buyers are still competing, especially if the home is move-in ready. So we're not expecting to see a crash. We may see a shift. Now, if you want to follow the market more closely during these government changes, Bright MLS puts out a weekly report every Monday. It breaks down new listings, median prices, price changes, and even the number of showings, plus how everything compares to last year and even last week. Now, if you'd like to see that report, let me know and I can send you the link. That's all for now. Subscribe for more updates on our local market, property tours, and deep dives into all things about Northern Virginia real estate. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.